Now we're going to move on to the highlighting. I'm going to take some of the orange, a little bit of white. I'm going to put a little bit of that clear medium with it just to thin it down a little bit. Wet on wet like this. This is still very wet, and I've got a lot of paint there. So I have to thin this next coat down just enough to get it to flow over the top of that. Notice my brush, I'm really matting that together to that really nice chiseled edge. This number 10 flat brush is excellent. I went through a few of these in the evaluation process, trying out different brushes, and I finally hit on just the exact one. This is perfect for what I like to use. It's not only good for florals, it's good for anything that you'd use a straight square brush for. An old barn, a tree trunk, fence post, whatever. Okay, on the inside is where all those little foreshortened petals are, and you're kind of looking at the edges of them. They're kind of doing this. You're looking right at the blunt ends of them, like your fingertips. So I just kind of randomly touch these in here. They're concentric, they go around each other. Once you come out a certain ways, you can start switching over and do the eyebrow stroke. That's these same type of petals, but they're curled in a little more, so you're seeing a little more width or girth of them. And that's when I start doing these. See, it's all in the wrist. I just press very lightly at the beginning of the stroke, a little heavier through the middle of the stroke, and then light again on the end of the stroke, so it's tapered. Nothing to it. And sometimes, depending on the size that you've already established here, this is a little bigger than the one I did in the sample. I think I can take these out another row just to fill it in a little more before I get to the outermost petals. But see how I'm maintaining dark in between each and every row of petals. If you start bumping them together and you lose that separation, your flower is going to get really flat. Now see here, I'm pulling from the outside in, and it's a pull-away stroke, which means I'm pulling it this way from the outside in, but as I pull inward, I pull the brush away from the canvas, so it gets very light and just kind of tapers off, leaving that dark in there. That's probably the trickiest of the strokes. But since this is wet, it doesn't work good on this dry board here, but since this is wet, it blends in. And notice all my strokes are going towards the center of the flower. No matter where I go around here, they're going right towards the dead center. That's where these petals hook on a common point on the back of that flower where the stem is. So the direction is critical. I'm going to overlap that stem just a little bit. See that? And it pushes that bud back a little farther. Here comes the flower. Now I can come back and re-highlight this a little bit brighter, which I will do here just a second. See, this is where I can kind of come around and really play up the outside angles of that. Just get a really pleasing shape. I don't want it perfectly round. I want it kind of irregular. So every now and then you'll see me pull a petal out a little farther so it's not too symmetrical. If it looks too open in some areas, I can go back in and squeeze in another little one of those eyebrows here and there, so it just kind of gives it a little more fullness. Okay, that's looking pretty good, I think. Now on the buds, we're going to have some highlighting on those. I just kind of go down the side and blend it on the inside edge. If you wanted, you could take your mop brush to fine-tune that blend a little bit. Okay, that's starting to look pretty good. I want to put some extra snap in it. So I'm going to wipe this brush off. I'm going to come back lighter. Like I said, I don't want to get too carried away with the white. The white's going to make it go too pinkish. So if I take some of the cad red light, which is kind of an orangey red as far as reds go, and a little bit of cad yellow, pale, I am going from this color to this, a little bit lighter and brighter. It's better to lean it towards orange than it is towards pink. It'll tend to look more like a red rose. If I think the light's coming from this direction, that's where I'm going to target it from. I'm going to lighten up. I'll have to put just a touch of white with that. I'm going to kind of target that side, left-hand side. A lot of paint on the brush and just a deft stroke. And I can blend that in a little bit on the inside. Sometimes you'll see like a curled over edge here where there's the other petal meets on this side, and I just kind of wiggle and jiggle and put that curled edge on there. Sometimes you'll see little touches in the middle where there's light spilling over and just hitting the inside petals that are wrapped around on the inside of that. And then when you do your main prima donna rose, which is the subject of this, the focal point, don't do every petal. I kind of dance around and hit a little here, a little there, but not a lot everywhere. Highlighting is the icing on the cake, and you don't want to overdo it if you can help it. I'm going to add a little more white and yellow to that to get it to pop a little more, especially on camera. Make sure that that's showing up for you. There we go. Looks a little better. But the light's coming from the left. I'm kind of thinking in terms of where that's going to hit the strongest. Like I say, red is a tough color to work with, so you have to kind of work with it a little differently. Think in terms of highlighting with a little bit of orange rather than white. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a red rose or a red apple. It's the same. See how that little bit of extra light really makes that jump? Okay. So see, wet on wet is not all about mountains and waterfalls and landscapes. You can do so much stuff. Really can. I do geraniums and lilacs and daisies and other flowers as well. So if you want some more in-depth instruction, check out my DVDs. I got some full-length DVDs. This is just a little quick lesson to kind of shed some light on some of the mystery behind the technique and get you started. But check out wilsonbickford.com and some of my other DVDs and lessons. I hope you enjoyed this. Give these roses a try. Don't forget this number 10 bristle brush. It's your best friend when you're doing florals. Take care till next time. We'll see you again.